제베 아니 도와주고 심지어 탄자 아니 마상만 매봐요 섬서워드는 공부차.
And that likewise in the space all around us, we are visualizing all kinds of other sentient beings, from our parents, our relatives, friends, those who are mutual, those who we have difficulty with, and indeed all sentient beings are there without exception.
No, they English don't go to Gale.
The recording take and so the continue the marble the
continue me do.
Yeah,
leave meeting and got it so that shasha kogudo
거기도 again 거기도
맞다 권한도 되게 신경 바로 오야 어디를 잡 마사와 매버서 아니 심지어 대다 탐자자 리조스도 동행 나셔봐 가인 발라 아니 남바 아니 가서다 가자 저 가서다 남바 민나시 남주유게 ruan namje yuge ani anje gaza dula sedebe toba toba onbola ani jege dawe dawa iche da ngodo ge debata otere jiye de ko bashe ani simje de daga dongen na so samata na simje la mi we ninche ani de dula sedebe lama shaja to lama shaja to la ku son to ge yende tenshi ben ngane ani dawe dawa iche ge da ngodo ge deba an daga ni je tombe ge yende ku son to yende tile 아니 되게 아니 연대 되게 가자다 연대 되게 전시면 가네 왔다 가자 저 심지어 담자는 동네 다 동네 교대 때나 치마로 대화 주체 저거 쇼지 삼삼다 아니 대화다 대화 교대 때나 치마로 대화 주체 대화 쇼지 안 대화 다게 지금 때다 전에 볼라마 아니 두배하고 왜 징글랍도서 어떤데서 공부하셔 아니 되네 다 저게 되게 아니 가서데 니제게 동에데 텐드 아니 잡아게 대화데 텐드 왔는데 공부하시는 왔다 동에 주다 잡아 대화데 대화 아니 주다 잡아 대화데 니 지금 쓰는 아니 학습 되겠네 아니 소소 제가 주도 심지어 탐제셔라 심지어 지기자 아니 그래서 대화 탐제도 동안에 저도 다 세버려 근데 어디 때문에 전에 내가 술라도 아니 랑이 되나 세다 라마투베 온거데 심지어도 두제 람라라 뭐마서 산제바 인사 다 공기 다 뒤에 감다 선바 바라니와 치다 와시도 기다 공기 공바지 마도나 타면도 뒤터바 있나 아니 계제 레레나 규명뭐 멤버 좋아 제투베다 가서 연대 켜봐제도 다 뒤터바 지기 선사 와데네 공바시
And so then we contemplate all of the sentient beings all around. They are the residents of the 6 realms of existence. And yet, though they are suffering, the sufferings pertinent to those realms, they are doing so with a human intelligence. And so therefore, they are looking at the figure we have visualized in front also with the triple faith, the pure faith, the faith of conviction and manifest faith. And that and really we likewise in contemplating along with them the qualities of an enlightened being, the quality of their body, speech and mind and enlightened activities, and that we really think about the kind of desire for to be rid of suffering on the one hand and to develop happiness on the other. And we kind of like develop that thing, how wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were free of the suffering and the causes of suffering. And likewise, how wonderful it would be if all sentient beings had happiness and the causes of happiness. I pray that this may be the case. I will see to it that is the case. Please, Guru Deity, please bless me to be able to make this the case. And we kind of go through that process of really contemplating how wonderful it would be really if all sentient beings had happiness on the one hand and were free of suffering, all suffering on the other, and that we make that kind of strong, exalted intention of really taking personal responsibility for making this so, generating that sense of I've got to develop the requisite compassion and love to be able to make this so. But when we ponder on this, we realize I can't even do this. I don't have the skills to do this for even one person. But who has those qualities? It has to be that enlightened being in that enlightened state. They are the ones who have generated the mind of enlightenment, and therefore on the basis of that practiced the path. And furthermore, they have fulfilled their goal of attaining full and complete enlightenment. They are the ones who have the knowledge of the status of sentient beings in terms of their karma, their personalities and dispositions, knowing precisely and timely what to do. And therefore, I really make a reinvigorated motivation to attain that state of enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, and do so on the basis of what's presented in this text, of generating that mind of enlightenment and putting it into practice.
What the compassion shipangane and the that what the to some GAD and that did to the Kura Cheto, meaning what is compassion, what is it?
And so therefore I will kind of learn from what's presented here and contemplate that, and then and really bring the full depths of it out through the wisdom, gaining through meditation, and thereby gaining the wisdom of learning, contemplation and meditation.
That has been some the Kawai Mato.
Junju Dochik.
Oh, yeah.
Woki Chikdi. Niba Semchen Shinbe Shik Chok.
All of that, or that can judge that can judge that can judge rank Lu Longju gets out the Chimbe Yu. That chord to do what that's some jerry's what up what that in the Niba Simja Jimbation Chop Imbala Yimba Yimbiasta Yimba Yinza and the Telaton Ripanis Zawale Simja Tonwa Chapchil Tamja Tonwa Chapchilla Simjana Tonwa Chops.
So we have been looking at the giving of one's body, wealth and possessions, and as well as one's roots of virtue to all sentient beings, and to gaining the notion that that is the supreme way in which to give to sentient beings. And this connects to the verse number 12 and the second half of that verse, where it says, "It is best that I now give everything to all beings in the same way as I shall at death." However, that translation doesn't correspond with the Tibetan. Tibetan is more like, "It is best that I now give everything to all beings, since they are the supreme object to give to."
What is that Tamja Tonga Chapchilas Reta, Rangi Luinare, Lonjuinare, that Diganga Luda Lonju Digate, Nimajita. Ruata Luda Lonju Digate, Nimajita Casapejutana Matana, Kora and Yorba. Never chatted. Never chatted. So the Gawa to be Duba in a Gawa Digate, and quite Benaceti, Chedjana, that's the Digimento Kayo, Chimechedo, one Chimechedo, Dutch Model Hadami Comarich, and then a Taman Tamation, Tamjekima, Tamjekima, Semjala, more the Semja Tamja Digit, and Tamjekima Gula to the water, what you Gasoda was a short to give the chat or short to give a chatora, and Lu Longe gave that Lu Longe to get there, Tamachiquachijate. Namjimento Tang Tango down. That answer you the chord to what the same yesterday. Tamja Tonga Chapchilla, Chapchikwa Dam. Tonga Jawalata, time Chiba Yimbala. That's that answer you Kabachi the Simjala Tawa Yimbana. Tawala and a chord, the Simjala Tawa de Takanje, Dansa Gita, Manoa, that chord to Jawata, Simjala Taneta. Simja Tamjedo, Sanja Kumatove Cheto, Simjala, teacher, Simjala Tower, that choice in there. Delia and Karjik Sanja Kumatobu was. That's about that Chedi Cheto Town, 대전에 다 체디 되게 주면다 다 디엔드도 타바자 타바쌈으로도 다디 탐제 김에 고마 톱도 다 탐제 김에 고마 톱도 다그 야마야서 디 제불을 따고로 다 제불 탐제 김에 고마 톱도 다 딜레션도 가르고 그랬어. 그래서 산제 고마 톱을 치러 시작하고 있죠.
And so here it's saying that to give all at the one time to all sentient beings, and to give them all together to all sentient beings is the best way to give. Now, this, of course, is presuming that they're given with the commensurate motivation. And so we have our possessions, our body. Now, whether we use them or not, they're going to be parted from us anyway at some stage. And so here it's saying that when we are giving, to give with that right motivation. Likewise, the virtue, our roots of virtue. If we're giving all of these away for the sake of this life, then it will have just a benefit within this life. For future lives, to attain the fortunate rebirth of a human being or a celestial being, or to give them for the sake of the omniscient state of enlightenment. So this then is regarded, the third is regarded as supreme, the best means by which to give. So in terms of the motivation for giving to all sentient beings being supreme, we do so with that supreme or best motivation. And so since we have got to give it at some time, it's best to kind of not just use it for this life, because there will be a definite end to it then. And so when we talk about whatever way we give, there will be a result to that. So if we give with the motivation to attain that omniscient state of enlightenment, that will be the result. And so as it says here in the explanation, to give to all sentient beings is supreme, because it is that which that karma would lead to that state of enlightenment. And so therefore we should really give in this way.
아니 디 아니 무트네 소소게 다 롱제 용예게 아니 된게 차도도 중에 다 꾸노 타바 돈돈이네 제 아니 탐제 잡아 돈돈이네 제는 다 탐제 개배 줄로 도지기도 와. 다 소소 세산에 다가래 다 소소가 세사에디 아니 저게 가서데 탐제 개배 고마 두배 쳐도 아니 루이도 초고도 아니 디 쳐도 아니 세사이 세 롱제기 이 세 롱제 제네 아니 가서다 타바다 탐제 개배 다 탐제 개배 고마 두기 있으네 안디 두배게 람라 좀 봐이나 안 돼야 샘제가 되는 거 말이다. 샘제 되는 집어 차기도 와. 다다 직접 말다 신셀리 디 롱제네 아니 소속에 삼주 대주 강가 안 탐제 캠베게 아니 되는 삼로 땅에 아니 람냠솔라나 잡나 아니 샘제 되는 땅 와래다. 샘제가 된도 아니 산제 고마 주바이나 주베게 람라 좀 봐이나 어디도 다 가자 삼로 땅다라 라리기도 와. 삼로단달라 다디 멤버자 소소류 야보고도 수 대보고도 아니 지금 최대 삼로장게 세네 침바이나네 아니 거체 말에 아니 담아 되는 거다 지금 가서데 되게 아니 지금 가서데 겨와 치마 편제라 아니 제 최저에 튕겨를 배주 되는 게게 요 말다 최대 아니 달 루인도 하고다 루야고 차는 차버리면도 아니 담아 되는 거 산주 교소르면 쉽게 개요하면도 다 된다 샘제들은 거 같아 다 타바다 탐제케베 줄로 줘되기도 와 줄로 줘되기도 와 와다지 스테이즈 가르치는 샘제의 신개발적인 바에서 차되기도 와 도다 샘제가 된거 꿀롱 삼로다는 랑게 세바 이내 타바 탐제케베 줄도 와 semjela pembechedo. Then the semje de shinkeba che chawitza.
So this choosing the most efficient or the best motivation is something that we should remind ourselves all the time. Like when such a mundane activity as eating food, for example, you know, we can choose to say, okay, I'm eating in order to sustain the body, and you know, that's all we think about when we're eating. And we know the end result of that is just what happens to go into the toilet, and that's as far as it goes. And so when we start the process of saying, I eat in order to give me, you know, the wherewithal and energy to work for others, to benefit others, then we're already making that process in kind of infinitely more valuable. And that to keep doing this, like whether it's for the sake of attaining a fortunate rebirth or liberation, or ultimately to attain the omniscient state of enlightenment. We have now kind of inserted something meaningful into the very mundane act of eating. And so here, it's kind of like depending on our motivation, isn't it? It's kind of really saying, you know, that this is what dictates everything, really. And so it's kind of like food here is something to energize the body in order to work for sentient beings. This should be our motivation. And that not leave it at just paying lip service or using just mere words, but really sincerely reminding ourselves every time we partake of any nutrient that we are saying, this is, I'm going to use this, I'm going to take this as the opportunity to work for sentient beings. And this then thinking is what's most important, what really makes the mundane act of mealtime extremely important. And so, yes, if we think only that, oh, I need to, you know, have a beautiful body and so on and so on, this is a false motivation, and we should avoid that. It's for the sake of sentient beings, I need to attain enlightenment. This is my motivation. And this is why, you know, sentient beings become this supreme or best basis to give to, because in this case, when we are benefiting sentient beings, we are already creating those causes with the bodhicitta motivation. We are, of course, then creating the causes to attain enlightenment.
다다 사회 동예 가리바다 다가니 이제 매 다가니 신게 두로 다가니 강바 뭐다 다 가리바다 소소게 아니 류 소에게 튼제 가리바이네 이게 가 최주배 튼제라 배주 땅도가 최주가 통해서 다 꿀롱도를 쏘고도 꿀롱도를 최주게 튼제를 교화체 아니 디 최대 아니 탐제 개별 고마드베게 아니 최를 교토에甚至탐제게도 사제 고마토베게 아니 교를 배주 땅도 받잖아 아니 제도 바나 다 랑게 류롱주 제자의 제바 심절을 뭐하대 차디기도 와 차디기도 아니 뭐소야 소소라 저게 진주 여봐当然 여봐 이는 아니 강토도 그야 심제 셀래 땅도 받지 대야 심제 탐제 사제 고마토베 체도 아니 미네 따야지 아니 랑게 롱제 대 심제 탐제기도 사제 고마토에 체도 아니 롱제 투바체 롱제 뒤에게 아니 삼로게 아니 누가 당마 쇠잖아 아니 롱제 뒤다 tumba 롱제체 아니 데레제다 샬랑 고서 당와 이메다 샬랑 고서 마다나 랑게 롱제와 이네다 디가 근가 아니 셈젤라 당와티 아니 셈젤라 당와티 당와티 소투에체 고 제고도 셈젤라 당서 랑 마사 마동자네 셈젤라 당 되게 저 말해 랑게 롱제바 디야 셈젤라 당와티 고쳐바 소투에체 고쳐봐서 다 셈제 탐제가 되는 산제 고마 주베게 아니 귤을 좀 봐이나 아니 셈제가 되는 편바로 와
And so, of course, this doesn't just confine us to what we eat, but what we drink, what clothes we wear, what house we're living in, what car we drive, etc., etc. All of our possessions, all of that which we make use of, is done so for the benefit of sentient beings. Now, so it shows that one is motivating, at the point where we're making use of all of these materials, not only to see them as conducive conditions, but also to follow that through in so far as we can directly to give and to benefit the sentient beings. And so here, making sure that whatever is done with that motivation to create the cause to attain the state of enlightenment, the omniscient state of enlightenment. And so if we can actually do this directly through sentient being, then of course do so with the provision that we're bringing the maximum benefit in that opportunity. But of course, we're not always going to be in a situation like that. So we are aware that wherever we're making use of, that it is empowering us, giving us the potential to be able to give it directly to sentient beings when that opportunity arises. And it's not just giving willy-nilly, and then you're left with nothing, but rather it's saying here that I'm gaining the habit, isn't it? Kind of really the habit of mind in our eating and drinking and so on, that we can prepare ourselves then to be able to give whenever that opportunity arises. So it's kind of saying, really, I am living my life. I am making use of all that I have in order to either directly benefit sentient beings or to give me the potential, prepare me, increasing that potential to give when the opportunity arises. So it's all kind of either directly benefiting or it's done so by empowering a beneficial motivation, a beneficial mind.
다들 류롱주 객사체와 땅에대 아니 심젤한 땅이나 다 디지나 산제고마 토그레스 오다 어디 산제고마 토비 규토고 있다 아니 심젤 나와다 초레스 오다서 다 심젤 땅스도 무엇을 심젤 땅에 제 용거를 랑게 롱제와데 아니 심젤 땅와도 소토바고 그러다 랑게 잡아다 닌제고 자주고 셈고 아니 어디를 제 랑게 류소에디 루토에데 엔 셈쟁 던주베 쳐도 엔 룽아 유소도 봐 원데 저게 있나 제지케 젠도에 엔 랑게 사야 통야 고야 되게야 엔 셈젤라 땅와다 고충고도 와 중고도 왔다 되게 그게 먼저게 가서도 다디 장보처럼 소소 롱제데 아니 꿀롱고 토네다 아니 소소 롱제베절 소소라디 아니 뉴 가서다 가자저 롱제네 아니 소소게 소와데 아니 셈젠들 소와저 소토바리나 아니 셈젤라 땅와 저거도 와 셈젤라 땅와 저거도 와 뭐다 되게 돼 먼저 강 툭툭게 제도에 배준제데 개점을 와 sometimes我就当时就闲了怕当，那让了买不算了，我这都是刚才车上的烧的，这刚才车没过一趟呢，那车特别多，要怕当时的他说了刚才买不算，这个就这么多，说龙街吧的，车特别听见了龙街去吧人呢，那什么叫当我差这个多。
And so, yes, as the verse points out here, that we take our body, our possessions, and all our roots of virtue, and to give to sentient beings, that is supreme. Because within that context, one can create the causes to attain the supreme state of enlightenment. And so here, it's kind of saying, yes, to make sure that we can give to all sentient beings, actually as much as we can directly to sentient beings, and to kind of see that this is really benefiting those sentient beings. And then from ourselves is really preparing the mind, isn't it? And to kind of give mentally as much as we can, because that really starts to create the kind of, or kind of increases our development, our cultivation of loving kindness and compassion through reflecting in this way. And this is what, of course, is very important steps to attaining enlightenment itself. So yes, we eat, for example, in order to sustain the body, but we are using then that fit body, dedicating it to benefiting sentient beings, but we're also dedicating the motivation of kind of like the purpose for which we are eating, dedicating that towards the benefit of sentient beings as well. And so this is very important, that to maintain that quality of motivation, that what we are doing, either directly or indirectly, in our making use of our possessions and so on, is to benefit sentient beings, and to maintain that as best we can is very, very important. It's not saying that you have so much to give, therefore give it out now and that's it, and have nothing yourself. That would be unskillful. What we give is what we have to make, that we have to give, and to make use of our own possessions in order to refine that motivation, sustain that motivation, and persist in that motivation as much as we possibly can.
大概这个先修进去买回呢，俺那边种个水要的，别这个说的，这那么就养不动也，甚至水没呢，俺那地了这个说的，别先准备的，将把的人这个准备的，先准备的呢，而且每个单来也，俺那边每个俺那个说的，当看着这个说的，当看着这外团的大爷，俺那大概那些个地了，如果古巴企业，俺那伢个给着，俺那就偏偏上班团的给着些。 anh xem này anh xem sang bộ kia, thế đó, thế nghe trò bộ này, nghe là chúng xem mà, thế xem trên gì về chúng xem cái, thì là cú sập chi, xem trên gì về chúng xem cái, anh cái số đó, anh chỉ cái số cái cha, anh chỉ cái số đó, ta cái cái cha, anh cái số đó, ta cái cha, anh thì là phê cái gì, xem trên gì về chúng xem cái, anh chỉ vào kia. anh xem trên về chúng sinh cái anh zoom tiền không ngala yabu chế vào đây không mi yabu đây anh để chúng sinh xem trên về chúng sinh cái anh để là cú sập đằng chế vào đằng chamba đằng chamba quan này tay và ta để là phèn bát chuối và để đấy chân này ta cái chế mang bút đua chứ cú sập chế tu cái gì yabu chế tu anh chỉ mi cái yabu trên tay tu 통중 맞아 봤잖아. 구바진에 다 되게 그가 수인의 제투에 들어왔다. 와다 되게 굉장히 돈에 지에도 와. 어디를 다 되게 이제 어디 녀녀의 등에 쪽벌에 좀 많이 샘제임에 좀 생각 구바 제거이지. 등원절 즉 가서래. 범실을 자야지. 다른 거죠. 나 직부유에 좀 생기게 돼야 뭐시다. 다 지금 녀녀도 임에 좀 생기 아니 지금 세외 권에 따야다 지면도 아 되면은 거기 그 도나스게 마트에 정말 지 용되기도 와. 다 되고 당 거죠. 지금 타바다 탐제 겸바 중에서 다 들려면 와. 샘제 수임 바이나 들 세외 권에 따야 세외 권에 아니 저 가서 구바치에 안 잡아 거미에 안 편바 주에 어떻게 되는가? 용고도 와. 어떻게
So when it comes to the opportunities we have to actually give directly to another, I think it's also worthwhile really refining that process so that we do so in the most perfect way possible. So it means that one is giving something material or whatever, but one is doing so with the most beautiful expression on the face, with the motivation of love and compassion and definitely respect. There's no sense of looking down on the other, and one is using beautiful words in doing so, really endeavoring to make this a really most beneficial interaction. And we're not thinking in a small-minded way. There's no sense of limitation here of thinking, oh, I'm giving this because it's my friend or my relative, or because they are a good person and it's good to give to them, but rather simply because they are a sentient being. And we should really work towards making this a really strong habit in mind, to say, this is why I'm giving, and I'm using, beneficial talk, making it, keeping my motivation pure to attain that state of omniscience, the omniscient state of enlightenment. But in all the process of that act of generosity, you're doing so in the most selfless, beneficial, gentle, respectful way.
아니 남인다 아니 저 가서도 남인다 아니 가서도 다 레라 알아와 메겠지 얘들이 제발에 출들이 용거래 삼상을 라와 메되겠지 라와 메되겠지 레다
Likewise,
남인
one is also, immersed in what we just described, therefore not in any way thinking about the results that might come from it or the different karma that might be associated with our action. That is only a distraction in this case. That's very important. There's no sense of expectation or hope for what one is doing.
가서 think 얘기 랭게레 this is my responsible think 얘 랭게레스 think 얘 랭게레스
So the only reflection is that this is my responsibility here. That's the only thought that need arise, and that's what again should prompt us to act quickly. This is my responsibility in this situation.
가서는가 심지어 탐색도 사제 고말 두기 있을 때 게미 소로 think 데미 뒤상에 think 랭게레 삼삼죠
So one understands one's motivation here is to our objective is to attain a state of enlightenment in order to benefit sentient beings. Therefore, what is apparent, the only thing that's apparent to us is this is my responsibility.
아저디게 남주 야가테나 두가테나 디 개체부 말이야. 다들 소수 랭게데 두비데 다 개체와. 어디를.
So this to say what is the most important thing then is to set our motivation to see these opportunities as responsibilities.
예바도 제고를 봐 수가 까다와 말해. 가서 소속에 다 가서데 소속에 아니 배 당돌라네. 월린달리 당돌라네. 오다 심지 담대가 산제 보고 마도나 타면도 뒤줘봐 제고도 삼산 지금 게다 뭐지 좀 아니 줘봐 지금 다 류다 롱도 계자데 제바 심지라 당고에 다 거기 랭겐 차대버려. 랭겐 차대버려. 어때?
So to giving to sentient beings is supreme, as it says. And so here is to do so, to give our body, our possessions, our roots of virtue as our responsibility. And it's not like you are being ordered to do so from on high or if forced into it. This is a volunteering action. We're volunteering because we understand that responsibility. Why? Because we already have attained that point in seeing how indispensable it is for me to attain enlightenment in order to perfectly benefit sentient beings. That's a deeply embedded motivation within us. Therefore, what I am doing, everything I do has to be as a freely offered volunteered responsibility to benefit others.
다단에 손대서 된 진짜 아니 란디 룰라사 란디 룰라 라원 유베 로돌라사 라원 유베 로돌와 이데 개발셔봐 아니 리베 레라 조워서 오다 sabje 숨고나 소리자 오테자.
And so the third main outline is going to be dealt with now, and this is to say how one should accomplish what one should accomplish in actually giving, while we're actually giving. And this is 3 subheadings. So from now on, it says we kind of give with an empowered mindset that is freely offering, for example, in terms of the body and so on. And then the second is that there will be a more extensive explanation of this. And thirdly, the reasoning that fits with that explanation.
What is it? That didn't Randy Lula Lula Raw you will lot do Chigures, do Savalia. That is because a Lucian Tamjala lead cheater Jessingi. Dado Söda Melbaham, their so chicken jella rats.
And so with regard to the first of those subheadings, then from here on in, I'm giving like with an empowered mind, I'm giving over my body, for example, dedicating, giving it. This is understood then in the verse number 13, where it points out, having given this body up for the pleasure of all living beings, by killing, abusing, and beating it, may they always do as they please.
What did it? That Janju Sabe, that Janju Sem Kene, that Janju Sem Kene, that Ranga Lu Longju Gaza Java, and the Semja Tamjala water. What? That is a Randy Takanja Ran Jenzingi, Junda Shen Jenziga Yunda Tong, and the Shen Jenzi down to land. Down to land, to Takanja down to land, Daji Lu. Daji Lujan Tamjala Sa Daji so Dagi and Luja Semja Tamjala Lu Mizan Pumbutis, the Lu Mizan Pumbuti, Jitter Jinsingista, or Jitter Takaja, Horanzo, Deva Yuba Longe, total, but Jinsingis. That then the Jinsimbe Lu de la Shenja Dado, Takaja, and the Jikaso the Takaja, Dado, Servata, and it's Taganishin Tsinyaba Mawata. And it's Meba, Takaja, because of Juju Javala Soba, that Lude, La and Dagba saw, Chigachella Ralesta, Karadova Yubatata, Jenata Tigris, Rate, Gangache to Chula, Lula Chakbata, Shambata, until never did a top of a chawa.
So, in the generation of the mind of enlightenment, we have, in that sense, at that point, already dedicated our body, our possessions, our roots of virtue to all sentient beings. They have like mental already been given, dedicated to all sentient beings. And so we have dedicated, we have contemplated the faults of self-cherishing and the benefits of cherishing others. And in that course, we see the benefits of giving all of what we have without exception to all sentient beings. So here, this verse is saying that those all embodied beings, we have given this unclean set of aggregates of body already given, and therefore for all sentient beings, for others, that whether they kill it or disparage it with negative speech or beat it, this body has already been given. And so they can do to it whatever is pleasing to them. And since it also helps to abandon attachment to that body and also developing any anger towards others.
Rangi tendega neba suyege le nyambaja samenane ne tugu yomare. Ta neba kege le nyambaja sa yonane ta ngamchi mato 아니 지금 가서 딱 근데 레드 마다 가서 님부터 없이 거는 상동전에 마다게 봐도 그 동네에 연구요래. 안데자 아니 파조 되게 알들 막아봐다 아니 코로 제야다 근데 맞지 봤잖네. 맞지 봤잖아. 컨디션 와도 막아봤지. 이나 양비 지 가서도 딱 가르치네 제주 가서 지 가서도 내가 가르치네 깨줘도 깨져 말해. 다 인주 컨디션 와도 맞지 봤지. 이나 양 순접 지에게 다디야 매바 차서나 최주벨 때 매바 차도 디야 순접 지에게 아니 탑시 도나 아니 강토도 순접 지야 순접 맞아 가르치네 제주도 깨져 말해. 다디 샘쟁거 돌아 순접 지에 ruwa semje ga dola ya sunjob chiye ta ya ti chiye chi yong gre o de da ti sunjob chiye da rang je ze ong ma je ta ti ya gyuring se ne ba ina shela semje la phaba ani gyuring a che to wa de che to ya semje ga dola sunjob chiye yong gre rang je ze ong sunjob chiye ma yin ba che semje ga dola sunjob chiye sunjob de jamba de zewe ong sunjob chiye pena就 가서 다 pena lula pena 소소라 세겐 레바이나 아니 데 세와들라 타답지에 타답지에 이나 세겐들라 콘도 마사와제 잠바데 니제 오케이 다가 니제 나르게 레니 마사와데 모트예지 다데 레니 마사베 제고 차데고 다 레니 마데 미버 오다 고쳐죠 다 소소 레니 마디 심데싱가 레니 마 간자산 디 고쳐봐쇼 다가 내 미기 답에는 슈바다 동바이네 슈바 동바다 콘도 마사와제네 아니 시바다 된데 동네에 순접 제도에 되나 아 순접 강투도 그치 아니 타마 순접 제마도 봐잖아 지금 다 내다라서 와 세고 전에 당게들 콘도 마사 왔잖아 안데 랭이 바사베 제보데 다 나자 말이 선제 셰수게 랭이 바데 사베 디 고쳐 봐쇼 삼사야 데데게 지금 최주에 통계를 배주 당도야지 어떤데 그래 데메다 야 가서래 가서 셰럽게 도다 제베 토네 셰럽게 도다 제베 토네 어다 고고요래 어들래
And so then to clarify this verse, that here what is most important, if we find ourselves in that kind of situation, the most important point is to avoid mental affliction arising. And that so here it's very important that patience really comes into its own here. It's very, very important. And to understand that if we have any sort of adverse reaction in here, it's self-cherishing speaking, and that is only going to lead to mental affliction. And so it's very important that that whatever harm is done, that there's no negative attitude and negative mind arising from our side. No negative karma is arising from our side. And if so, we have the possibility of applying the four opponent powers. But if not, then we know that if we have negativity arising like that, there will be a negative result, a consequence to that. So no anger is extremely important in any situations like that. But also, it should be understood that here, it's not like we are volunteering ourselves to be killed and beaten and disparaged in this way. That if we are in a dangerous situation, obviously common sense dictates that we try to protect ourselves and protect ourselves from this. And so, but we must also be clear that just like in any other situation where we have the opportunity to benefit others, in a situation like this where we are avoiding and protecting ourselves, we are doing so also with a positive motivation. And the motivation here would be for the benefit of others. We are protecting ourselves out of love and compassion for others. And so it's if we, for example, if we are close to being killed, if somebody is out for our head, then we escape, but we do so again with no anger. And so, and also, if those who are out to beat us and kill us and so on are doing so with a negative motivation, we take on that negativity as ourselves. May their negativity ripen on me. And so may their, all of what they are trying to do may ripen on me, but we protect ourselves. And so physically, and so we kind of make out of that situation what's called a conducive condition. We take the benefit out of that situation and make it actually very, very meaningful. And so what is really called for here is that we can respond in any sort of situation like this by using our wisdom to see how to avoid anger, mental affliction arising, and how to replace that in that situation with a contemplation on patience and benefit, love, compassion, and how to take on the negativity of the other and make it make that situation meaningful.
다 간제 대대가 내가 줘대 안에 타도 지에대 란체제 온게 타도 많이 받지 샘쟁게 돼 주베 채도 안에 타답 지에지 안에 게디 니와 마타르 바 임바이나 데네 그 동에 녀와 임바이나야 데네 녀와디 라테네 안에 녀모 마게 받지 아니 녀모 세베 줄어 줘 토이치 어디다
And so in a situation like that too, again, in any situation, if it's unavoidable, even again, to prevent one's reaction being dictated by self-cherishing, but rather to always have the benefit of sentient beings to the fore, always. And if one has to experience suffering, then don't allow that to be mixed with the mental affliction in any way. To negate that possibility as much as we can, but doing so, again, taking on that suffering for the benefit of sentient beings.
니바디 되 개발 셔바 니서 자왈레서 자왈레 다제 르라 제제담 조지 가시 주제장 다제 르디 진세제 대에 가다 지시자서
And so it's really about maintaining that singular focus on benefiting sentient beings. And so it may be a case where we have no option but to face the oncoming suffering. But again, we just resolve never to allow that to give rise to mental affliction, but always to keep the benefit of sentient beings to the fore in our mind. So the next subheading is giving a more extensive explanation of that meaning. Verse number 14 reads, although they may play with my body and make it a source of jest and blame, because I have given it up to them, what is the use of holding it dear?
다지 류디에서 다 소소고 류디 라 셴제서 세무 세월 제담 자 어느 토sam바서 녀주지에 로 녀주 그래서 토sam바 조디 녀주지에다 아니 조디당 조디 다가서 마법지에 조디당 아니 가샤데 세제 다가서데 개물라에 소라 쳤다 좁라에 소라 통주지에서 세제게 규제적 중대 다그데 제바 있는 중대 저기도 당도라네 다지 류디스 심젤라 제싱게 소수 류디 심젤라 제스원은 코나를 팬토나 저기도 삽사잖아 코나를 나라 지 통주 제바다 코나를 팬토고도는 다 저기도 사가서는 아니 고쳐버려 삽사잖아 어디르지 아니 딜레테는 코란 디과사와데 아니 제부터 나라민 바쇼 섬서 코란 마민 바쇼 섬서 어디다 살았다 디 송알라 소베 카다 지시자 다디 송아 다디 내게 모여에게 아니 지 가서도 순접자다 녀모 온 순접지에서 거라 다디 딜 갑대자네 소에서 카다 지시자데 대다 동스모我的 대다 아니 코란 당사와 심지어는 팬배체도 당 코란의 팬도는 지금도 섬사지 어찌죠
So again, here we have a situation where others may make fun of the body, use it as a plaything, or tease, or scoff at blame, and so on, in whatever way they are taking this negative attitude towards us, and that but we maintain the reality really for our own minds, in that having generated the mind of enlightenment, we have already given over our body to others, and so why is it that we need to hold it precious and dear to us anymore in that situation? And so they, if it helps others to do this, if it benefits them to behave in this way towards us, that's absolutely fine. That's what we want. We want to benefit sentient beings. But if they're creating negativity by doing so, this is what I take on. I take on the negativity of that. May it ripen upon me. This is our motivation. And we also can, of course, protect ourselves here, but not out of attachment to the body, but again, maintaining that sense of love and compassion in our motivation, and protecting it so that we can be of benefit to others in the future, etc.
딱 이제 지금 나라도 지금 남바데 렌데 켈랭게 차대요. 저 렌데 지지 타월 삼라타와 있나 다 라라 동네 컨디 중앙 임바이네야. 동네 컨디 중앙 임바이나티 다 리트메 줄레 리트메 되고 용이 요바서 아니 겨와가만 나라 셀 통중 잡아 셀 네바 잡아 아니 텐데라테네 다 지금 가서도 다디 나밍 마다와체네 디디가 마다와자 하여반자 저부터 견다 태원데 동네의 용어로 띵뭐 처배도는 오다가 데데데데 레냐바 사도와다 지금도 와서서 교sem치 오다 야부 청소 다디 저부디 녀네 저쪽으로 섭사잖아 될 때는 가서도 너무 깨마주와 지에다 아니 라도도다 되게 자주 seb에 도마 켈레도 아니 라그 류롱주 계자 잡아 심지어 당사를 아니 코나가 롱잖아 다 코나가 잘라서로 차대요 다 되게도 섭사지에지 어디를 다 간지 지체.
And so in the context, this verse, in the context of ourselves being Buddhist, also having an acceptance of the law of cause and effect, that we see here that this is obviously something, whatever is happening here in the course of my body being teased or disparaged in this way, is a result of a cause that I have created. And so I've looked down on others, I've scoffed at others, etc. And so this is a simple ripening of that karma. And so therefore, I have to recognize this. This is my responsibility. I recognize this. And actually, there's no cause here to generate any sort of anxiety or negativity in my own mind, but rather to rejoice in the fact that this is the particular path of karma that is now finished. It's being exhausted. And so furthermore, by recalling that I have developed a mind of enlightenment, the understanding is there that I've already given over this body anyway. And so whatever is done to it is not my business. If sentient beings are really enjoying and having benefit from this, then that's fine.
Suba rigwe lela joane sa rigwe lela joane zawale dela never mijube lede kaya jet chukse.
The third of those subheadings was conjoining what has gone before with the reasoning behind it. And again, 15, verse number 15, the first part of it says, "Therefore I shall let them do anything to it that does not cause them any harm."
딱 이제 통동 제바다 만뱀 제바다 다들 견주 제바디 데데 제바디 젠데 제바디 아니 삼로 당다면서 삼로 누구 여러분도 루코라 뉴스가 요 말봐 루르 뉴요 말봐 루코라 뱀보르와 그와 다 데자 루 가서 단데가 루 데라 네벌 미주베 어다들 통종 제외 개수제 다디 녀막 직제들와 다지 루라 제제다 저렇게까지 규제다 다들 리디 제세제 대가다 제다 삼로 야고스타이나 통종 제에다 마구바 제에다 교주 제에다 되게 룰레네게 요 말했어. 더 루들은 너무 미주신 Ranshe Kula Pember Give Le Kayim, but the Cheto Chostat in the Yamata, so good this Soba Gomege and Tengen Soba Com Shibayina and the Casa de Rota Kanjaji Shibayina and Ranshe Kula Pember Give any Geva Lapshabu Satu, like Gevella Geva Kayimba and the Cheto Cheba, watch up.
And so then the explanations of what has been described in verse number 14, where there's no actual harm coming to the body, but the potential is that one may be mentally disturbed because of it, mentally perturbed because of it. So, for example, they're describing teasing the body, looking down on the body, scoffing, playing disrespect, or body shaming, and so on, criticizing. And so all of this is something that deals with kind of is directed at our mental sense rather than the physical body. And so here it's saying that if there's no harm to the body in this case, and if it's one can kind of develop from that, for example, patience, and if we know how to kind of sustain or to insert one's practice of patience in that sense, then the whole scenario becomes one of virtue for us. And that's just something that can be of benefit to not just to us, but to all sentient beings.
아니 류섭다 약보도 섭다 약보 민두세라 되게 견주제만 거 줘라. 그 류코라도 내 그게 너무 깔라. 류배부로 이나다고 나라도 삼로 다해 줘봐 인사. 아니 삼로고 터냈다. 아니 저게 아니 저가 다 지가서래다. 녀몽게 아니 잡조제전 아니 마기 맞은 대대고 여러와. 녀몽게 연구 여러와. 어다데 삼로 당나리 약보시나. 아니 그 그게 요말와다 삼로를 만나는 류란에 가야 요말 류리 견주 가서 꼭 배불이 가야
So you can see how this becomes how do you say, rather superfluous in a way, in that sense that here where there's no actual physical harm being done to the body, that this is criticizing of the body. And of course this is quite pertinent in the modern age, especially where there's so much kind of like obsession over a beautiful body or the body that is not beautiful and so on. And that, any kind of criticism can be taken very, very harshly. And so it's kind of like, it's worth noting that this is not something that is felt by the body at all. There's no physical harm in this situation. And so if one, one's thinking can be very much kind of like reactionary in a situation like this, which of course sets out to be a very supporting element to the mental afflictions that can follow on, and they can become quite serious. But in fact, when we take the reality of the situation, is that there's no actual physical harm occurring to the body. And this is purely in the realm of the mental realm. And so if we have patience, patience involved there, where we can sustain our kind of mental equilibrium in this sense, then we let all of that, those words of criticism, just wash over. They don't impinge, they can't impinge. They're just words after all. And so one doesn't even have to take that seriously.
다 그러네. 니가 다 개와 추면서 왜 저러면 반해서 개와 추 그래 다 간제 저 가서데 가서데 다 간제 좀제 망고 토네 저 가서데 저 좀제 망고 토네 다 간제 저 가서데 아니 저게 다 가서데 나라주게 장주게 생비 냠내라 다 데데 내 용거를 다서다 또 고미도 망고 쉽지어라 어디가 kankan에 다 간제 저 어디온데 아니 델레 삼로 땅 어디온데 델레 삼로 땅 간제 다저 가서데 저기 장주가 셈 안데 마게바 깨바제 깨베 고네 공도 펜에 다 간제 탈 산제 고마 토베 쳐도다 저 가서데 这个专家马用啊，对到了，俺那三路个到呢，俺那等那个俺那内在的推荐龙啊，结果呢，啥的，告诉了他这个在这说几个多，可是呢，先把这忙个休息多，可是我做的考啊把的，俺那让生个先往做，生牛毛被先往的就都考对应呢。他可是的牛毛骨骼对应用的个多，他的马用也切到，他跟着结果有没得来当过这个。跟着结果没得的，我的这个三路当就这多，我的是，那给其实的牛毛了，还得加这多，让现在了但是马里关你了，他还得加活的，牛毛了还得加活的，我的这多。
So it's kind of like you can see in these several verses, and that it's very important for us to understand a whole plethora of good reasonings to be able to employ in all these different given situations. And it's like us on that path to practice the mind of enlightenment. It's very important of us to be able to see many doorways out of potentially difficult situations where we can use the reasonings, and that will help us in all the situations that we are in. As we pray, may the mind of enlightenment that is not arisen arise, and may that which has arisen increase more and more. We are kind of required on this as practitioners to keep thinking, keep reflecting on any potential difficult situations, and to have that kind of like opposition, that opposing force in mind all the time. In other words, really to prepare our minds as much as we possibly can, because while in cyclic existence, we know by our own experience that we're inundated by situations where the mental afflictions can freely arise, and so we're under the influence of mental afflictions so easily, so regularly, that we need to have a counter force to all those situations. And so we need to be able to think of these reasonings, these doorways where we have the thinking that's necessary to oppose mental affliction.
他的就是这么希望那个他感觉这告诉了他看这个娘用他的送过了吧他等着这都讲究个生命娘的这的俺刚才等着去这个的这条的俺个三路等着是就当过都是当然俺送就这都送过了吧他送就这都送过了吧他
And so as the great Bodhisattva Shantideva, the author of these verses, is speaking from his own experience and saying, for those on the path who are developing the mind of enlightenment, these are the possible problems that you will encounter, and therefore this is the kind of thinking that you can employ in order to oppose these kinds of issues.
And
so he said, look, I'm speaking from my own experience, therefore you should take this on and use it for yourselves.
Again,
I'm saying, yeah, there's no second method here. This is what we have to learn how to do. The next main headline, outline, is a prayer so that the virtue that we have accumulated may never run out. And this has three subheadings. One is the prayer to support our soul benefit, our being able to benefit, solely benefit others, to kind of dedicate ourselves to solely benefiting others. And thirdly, first subheading there, the second subheading is a prayer that our proper, correct motivation or intention should never be exhausted. And thirdly, that the actions that we follow up with should never be exhausted.
Roto Shella Papa, Bashi to a Kurmeba, Saba Chumis of Kurmeba, George Chumis of Kurmeba, Miss Kurmeba. That I'm winning. Shella Papa Bashi to a Kurmeba Tilata, Zawale, Dala Min and Namdo Yang, Kaya Deme Major Chicks.
So, with regard to the first of these subheadings, then that prayer to benefit the sentient beings solely, to solely benefit sentient beings, is dealt with at the second half of verse number 15, where it says, "And when anyone encounters me, may it never be meaningless for them."
Shella Takasa, Shella Papa Bashi Kurmeba, Rowater, Takanja. That Daniela means that's also la mean do Namdo Yang, Semja Kaya, Demebar Maju, Demebar Majuba, Donda Demachuchi, Jeba, which.
So this is simply that when anybody whoever encounters me, may it never be meaningless for them, but on the other hand, may it be meaningful.
That can judge social nobody, nobody, and coral pembecury to a shows. That social pemba in a coral pembecury to good water, carry him by in a social Mambeta mine, Kunju Cheva in a ya, and a pemba to buy him by in a ya. Or any Chicago, that can judge and that's a dumba the deck by the Seba, the Karicheva in a ya, Korangi, that can judge the D. K. Jene. Koran Gula Janju Sem give a Juru Juasho. Koran Gila and it got the Takaja Yanjo that Janse Yanta Tawa Quebec and Tungela Juashos. What the legend? What the legend? Ratakaja Korange, Machine Mongbe on nobody Pembe Juru Juashos. What the legend? Pembe Juru Juashos. Takaja Kanja de Gaza. That you got a Pemba Bashigi. Nobody care about the any pembe jure shows the Takanja, Pento, but the pembe jure shows a shady one of the Pemba Tango, but the sham war. Nobody care about the pembe jure shows the Takanja. Chicken never the Pemba Karisha by the pembe jure shows. But that tear 6 of my but the same thing. Right, that is because of Dumze Shebeton. Right, Dumze Shebeton, Carson, didn't you marking the same generous? They want to do him. 대입자지 대외주를 주어서 세들다. 안 대화 타도바 산제 고마토베네 주를 주어서 뒤에 잡아든 이제 집에 주를 주어서 어떻게다.
So here, in this kind of situation, of course, it's not just that when others are beneficial to us that it may it be meaningful for them. But may the situation be meaningful even when others harm us. So it's kind of like we have to see the situation, whether they criticize us, they kill us, they beat us, they disparage us, that it is used only to increase our appreciation of the mind of enlightenment and the realization of that, to increase our ethical conduct, our concentration, our correct view. And so it's understanding here that anybody, say, who is harming us is doing so not understanding of what they're doing. And so may it be of benefit to them. May the outcome of that be benefit to them. May I take on any negativity in their actions or motivation, and may it be beneficial for them. So it's, of course, one thing to easily contemplate when another is beneficial to us, that we can be beneficial back. And that is a very comfortable, meaningful interchange. But here, it's particularly pointing to the fact that when others harm us, in whatever way that harm is, that we have the response that really processes what is happening there, so that deep down we have the reasoning to support our beneficial response to that, that we make it meaningful. That is increasing our own mind of enlightenment, our loving kindness, compassion, and so on, our understanding. And because we have the understanding that we are interacting with a kind mother, a sentient being. It's not just anybody, it's a kind mother, sentient being. That's what we have taken on. And so our reasoning and our sincerity should be right there in place to make that interaction meaningful.
Pedangarazo, Chicaso de leg ongi, part never my giver, the penatilla part never made giver in a Simja Rigaja, Soso Thomas and Magiba Yungre. Soso Thomas and Magawa Yungre. Because a leg ongi. Rua. Simja Gasha, Soso Paya was came by Jen, etc. Soso Thomas and Kabuchika Yungre. Put the leg not so much thought. Pajogi, that Soso Nigga bag leg, Midao Java is. And it did only Gasha. Pa never my said the pa never my given and said Naman never give a dendegi gang onge, dendegi onge. And it said that social Magawa chair, the young was a pa Magawa you had 3 Uyata. And the day of the social Magawa Java in my D can Jene and a degular Japanese give a to a short sketch. Rua, Taka social Gawa Chunganata, Magawa Chunganata. Taka join and Kade join in it. And Burma the condition in it, T. Jene, Tigula Jabakeva, Tigula Niji Kevasho, Tigula Nyanjun Kevasho, Tigula Janju, Sem Keva to a show. Again Kevasho. And Tony Tobe, Sheriff Kevakula, T. And it's because of Tabach Bekevation, came to a show. The Kajan would happen also, Kangashi was chair, Tungashi was shown, and Tilatenaya, and T. Jene. That jet and young to do. Mimma put the young to a penetration ricochet, and it's a similar cangate, and the Tavani social name the pinga that the Tronto Kangamu, and Nabuchella Tonamena, today can't chene ya, same Mikey was a cangate on the international ya, today can't chene ya, chella toss on I with the Yugua. What the can't and Yugua. Tavani is also Mikey was a cangate attended to Nejo attended. And social Magawa attended, then they can't and church to be twingular to it. Young good. What did they watch a good one? The Kurangala Magawati, not on a Magawata, and the Makiba Yobai, and the condition by Yubanati, and the church to be twingular to a shores. What did they get? Not watch it and good one. The rather did you remember my duty? Did turn that by your music done that by your and cover the temperature to be again. Today, 20 to Jewish shores, the watch it. Do what and they get that Tapsi Janet, that can to them about my Jewish. This way.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, we have to understand as well that we're very much our perception is ruled by our karma, whatever karma we have. So we may see just on the basis of seeing another person develop and generate dislike for that person, or just seeing another person in the distance develop a liking for that person. And this is due to a karmic perception. And so it's kind of like whether they have one person has, obviously the people we haven't met before. So for the one we dislike, maybe they've caused us some harm in the past, and this is how it's manifesting in our perception now. And the other person has been kind to us in the past and manifesting this liking. And so we kind of see that we're not getting an accurate perception of the present situation. So this is something that we need to be aware of, and to understand that this is not how we pass judgment, as it were, on us. We shouldn't kind of pay that much attention to our karmic perception, but rather maintain the understanding that we are on a Dharma path. We are generating the mind of enlightenment, and that this is a situation for us. Any situation where we are meeting, whether it's the one we like, dislike, or they are just neutral in our perception, that we pray. May this meeting be a cause to increase my loving kindness, my compassion, my mind of enlightenment, my understanding of wisdom of emptiness, and so on. And that all of this is to be able to see what these situations are, and to kind of therefore use them in that beneficial way, to take the skillful way to kind of like do that. And likewise, if there's an understanding as well that for people who are encountering problems and sufferings and so on, that this can, where they have mental difficulties or family problems and so on, sometimes these conditions can act as a way for them to turn towards spiritual practice. And that, so it's kind of like something that where somebody is in that situation for us, the way in which we're perceiving them, to add that to our prayers. May they meet with Dharma, may they be able to practice the Dharma, and therefore make that casual encounter and meaningful as well as any other encounter.
Döme var majuja ta sosola ta tonga töba reba kandecho ina ta döme var majuja de ke ane 지금 잡아든 일라 소바 개베 교를 주어서 ane 소소 팬도 와나 녀와나 가르쳐만 되가 잡아든 이제 개베 교를 주어서 타도 산제 고마토베 교를 주어서 와다들은 döme var majuja 와들전 다 와들전 다 좀 와지에죠 근데 그 삼라다니 와들지 아 당연히 제 배는 가라서 차샤바는 배는 지금 말아서 뭐아지도 차샤와 있네. 심지어 술이바 있네. 심지어 수이바 있네. 무엇이 규수는 편토바 용하쇼. 서는 뭐아지. 다 마시에 몽배 온게 아니 소소 마시에 봐 몽배 온게 반녀바 시켜봐 있네. 녀바데 심지어 편배 줄을 좋아쇼. 서는 뭐아지 용으로 와. 좋아. 나 지당 뭐저 무엇을 균내이네야 그래이네 심지어 편도바 짠다 용하쇼. 사소서 가르쳐봐 심지어 편도바 짠다 용하쇼. 이내야 다 소소 내당보아래 아니 탑켜봐 매봐다 마시베 온게 아니 팬토에 녀바 차와 용미스바 말어봐 용미스바 멘트 되네 녀바 차바야 팬베 줄을 좋아쇼 어디서 와제 것도 팬베 줄을 좋아쇼
And so as the verse says, like whoever sees me, whoever encounters me, may it not be meaningless for them, but meaningful for them. And so it's kind of like here, it's kind of like we dedicate in this way too, that they, even whatever, how do you say, depth of encounter we have or interaction we have with others, may it be meaningful for them. And may it be the cause through my own behavior that they turn to practice the Dharma, and that make it meaningful for them as well. And so it's here in the process of our taking all sentient beings into our focus, and that being the focus of our desire to attain enlightenment. And for example, when we're doing a dedication and say, whoever we encounter, or whether we can do so directly or indirectly, may I be beneficial, may it be beneficial for them, may it be meaningful for them. And so knowing ourselves as beginners, we have kind of like a very, how to say, checkered history perhaps of going out there trying to not having the necessary skills. So we're just saying whoever we meet and have that opportunity directly or indirectly, we pray that it may it be a beneficial meeting, may it be a beneficial interaction for us. So thereby really strengthening our intention, our mental intention to make sure that we are beneficial when we do have that opportunity.
어디에 삼다 아니 이내 마시 몸에 온게 가서도 소소 펴봐 주고 삼을 마시 몸에 온게 내가 이내야 내가데 펴매 주를 주어서
and so that and so if we are kind of like acting out of on not knowing and kind of then in accidentally create harm, then may we pray dedicate that it may be transformed into benefit. May it become a condition so that it will be kind of a beneficial ultimately.
What did some of that? That can just Casola 가서 다 소소 건데저 셀라 펴봐 바신 주에 shilla peba bashi le mashi mombo nobody pebe gyuro joya wata ga peba bashi what the sometimes.
So this is all in the context of solely being beneficial, just beneficial and never harming.
Niba samba chume sabe juru memba nesa zawale dala mingne kandaji chuan tangwe semjo na deni dado dedaji dungun jube jujuchi sam.
The second of these subheadings was then that a prayer that one's intentions may never be exhausted. And this is verse number 16. If in those who encounter me, a faithful or an angry thought arises, may that eternally become the source for fulfilling all their wishes.
다 지금 다라 민네 다 소소라 민네 기부 가시 어느 콘도게 마가와체 야 기부 가시 애니 대바 지금 다 되니 그거 켜봐 매겐체 대바 제와이네 다 초아게와 있네 다 콘도게 소소 내바게 되니라 되니 가서다 셈제이 봐 찍바래 대화도 동에 몇도 찍바래 아니 소소 셈제 탐제거도 산제 고마 두고 있어 소소 거네 다 켜봐 가요 말이야 어디래지다 소소를 초아지를 내밖에 봐 이내다 아니 소소를 대바제 봐 이내다 다 같이 셈중아 셈중나 셈된이라 때내서 다도 기부 대다게 동근도 다 대바지게 이내다 소소를 막아져 초아지게 이내다 이내 되니 가야라 켜봐 가야 매바지 쟤네 되니라 때내서 다도 기부 대고 기부 대다게서 동근도 동근 장도의 현대 니가 주베 교주지 시켜봐 보자. 다 간자 또나 지금 남제 개요 고마 토베 교주지 좋았다. 어디든지 교주와는 통제도 좋아 용어서 소들지.
And so this verse is then taking into account that whoever we encounter, meet, whether they are angry towards us or have faith towards us, that we see no difference in that. One, they are sentient beings. I am working for the sake of sentient beings. I am on the path to enlightenment and developing the mind of enlightenment. Therefore, I make no distinction between these two, whether it's anger or whether it's faith. That my sole thought is to be of benefit here. And so here it's kind of saying, may that eternally become the source for fulfilling their wishes.
What the legend? What the legend? What the legend? That's so much joy to myself. You remember this? To myself, Zawales. That my India Soya digger that Marazo Namju Mizina la can't to get. Can't to get Bezuchiguro. What are the letters was Luki loss of a tomb loss of a sort of my imba chechen. That did Marazuge and Samlo Nala Leva Chene and a D to an attack and judge and then they can't to go your hair at Bezuchich.
And so we must remind ourselves, that all of what is presented here is something that we must do our best to integrate into our lives. It's not just an account or a story that is being told here, but something that can be of practical benefit. And so we need to integrate it and have that mind to kind of really apply it in every situation.
다 숨배 좋아 취미서에 주르면 반에 자월래 강다다라 카세람 현다 내바 제와함 대시 차가 동야로 탐제 자주 게된 줄스.
And so then the next subheading is the prayer that one's actions may not be exhausted. And here verse number 17 says, may all who say bad things to me or cause me any other harm, and those who mock and insult me, have the fortune to fully awaken.
다 기부 간다 다 기부 수임 바이나 간다 달아서 나게서 카세람 카세람 안셴 간 루게서 네바체바다 그주 체바다 티체차 루게 네바체바 대신도 고도 차가 동안다 가다에 또 자와 간제야 근데 제가 이네 대탐체 아니 장주 처부터 깨와도 된 교치 제가 오서 장주 처부터 깨와도 된 교치 제가 오죠.
So here, this verse is interpreted as follows: that again, whoever I encounter, whoever the sentient being is, if they say bad things, or if they kind of harm me physically, or then mock or insult me, and whatever they engage in, that for all of them, and may they be fortunate to attain the state of enlightenment, great enlightenment.
What let's say about Gomne. What the less Gomchen, Takaje, Sosolo never Java in a Pemba Java in a Dini Nigala, and the Niring Meba, Chakda Meba Jenny, and it because of the Dini Nigala and Pemba to be Dini Nigala Digi Yong and good to be. And what are the nigger and because of 6 of my in but the same thing there. And because of the Takaje, because of the Namlela, but that Chartuachi, that gets him to that, the Java any was a Tabe Jesu Laps, Tama, Kibu Tamba, Jesu Lava, Jesu Tawa. That did jet only Kibu Tamba Chabra. That's also the jet to a bedroom channel, and he Kibu Tabe Jesu Tawa Chagua.
So again, and these kind of verses, all of them really require more meditation, more reflection, and to really take on the reality of being able to respond beneficially with wisdom towards those, either whether they are angry towards one or are meeting us with faith or a harmful intention, whatever it is here, like saying bad things or mocking, insulting, and so on. And that it's a case of really getting beyond, just paying lip service to the idea of being able to deal with all of these scenarios in a skillful, beneficial way, but getting a kind of that deep down transformation. Say, look at I am on this path. This is the path I have chosen. Therefore, this is what is the assignment here. All of what's written here, the efforts of the holy beings of the past, and say when we want to follow in their footsteps, this is what it means, that we are able to do so only with the benefit of the other in mind, and however that it manifests, that's what we need to reflect on to become skillful at doing.
나라도 착당 게 로식 처부 여자 아니 디다 투버 줘야 돼 레라부시다 말해 돼 이나야 다 그저 거서로 문에 전에 저 가서데 뭐유게 내주 투마 먼저나 아니 뭐유게 아니 디기지 용도고 요 말이 아니 저 뭐유게 내주도 투마 좋은 거도 아니 다 근데 지금 아니 저거 가서데 다 심바체네 다 근데 지다 심바체 아니 딜라 때네 아니 딱 리메 검수나 거 아니 딜레 잡대 참아요네 아니 고바 탐에도 패주데 뭐다 딜레 용구로 와
So we have to understand, of course, as well, this is what's required, but we also have to understand what the situation we're in. We are beginners. We are very much enveloped by attachment on the one side and aversions on the other. So it's not easy, but if we maintain this dedication to seeing the actuality of the situation in its karmic context, etc., if the actuality of the situation, and we understand and we are able to act in accordance with the actuality of the situation, then gradually our actions will become more and more skillful, because this is backed up by valid reason. We're supported in what we're doing by valid reason. So we shouldn't lose heart, but to understand that we are proceeding in the right way because it's backed up by valid reasoning.
다가리세 잡바데 닝제서 다 잡바데 닝제 채롱아 개발라 아니 차단게 로데 아니 저기 가서 코지 냠마두고 봐도 잡바데 닝제 채롱아 저게 두고면 도 잡바데 아니 차단을 로게데 준비게 잡바 닝제데 망제 되차르도면도 잡바데 닝제 군데르면 다 차단게 로이 아니 뿌리 야와 체네 아니 차단게 로디 아마 시기네네 디 아니 저기 님부메바 토네 디 아니 딜라 그바메바 토네 아니 차단 매베게 아니 잡바데 니제 경우도 아니 잡바 니제 셀롱아 시고도 와 그러 잡바 니제 뇌게게 된 것을 차단게 로디 제대도 와
So for example when we are developing genuine love and compassion, this then, however long we engage in that, it helps to increase those levels and depth of love and kindness and compassion, whereas at the same time it will reduce the levels of attachment and aversion that we are dominating now by making, for example, distinctions that much of what we refer to as love is only simply attachment, desire. And so we can make that distinctions. We see the actuality of the situation, and we can see that by practicing that genuine love, genuine compassion, that it is backed up by a valid reasoning, and therefore it will increase exponentially. At the same time, it will serve as a counterforce to the discriminating attitudes of attachment and aversion.
좀센 데베 토네 잡아도 니지 깨고도 좀센도 안에 소소다 녀와 임자 소소 가외 교세게 잡아도 니지 깨데 아니 그 차단을 로테도 남신도 소소다 저와 야고 예외 발라 아니 잡아도 니지 예데 소소다 저와 야고 매베 닐라 아니 쇼게 저와 깨사데 권한녀바 깨사 차도해지 요구도 다들 가서나 그 차단을 로다 제베 아니 잡아도 저와도 차도해도 아니 디 팽금도 누구도 딱간자 잡아도 니제 깨야돼 대화 되지 동에 밑에 봐 이제 좀 세도 전에 이게 봐이나 아니 라는 너바 깨요 이바이네 이 대화 되지 동에 밑에 봐 이바이사 딜래야 아니 잡아도 니게 투에 주고도 와 그 잡아 니제 아니 저 고마 탐에도 패다 아니 셀로에 잡아 니제 깨 도와주 요구도 와 왔다 디 먼저 만화와 제대 개침버려도 와 디제도 다 작단 걸로 됐다 그 70 차되기도 와 그 70 차되기도 와
And so it's very important that we proceed in our cultivation of love and compassion on the basis of reasoning. This is very, very important because one of the biggest mistakes we make is to misdiagnose compassion and misdiagnose our love for something that is not genuine love and compassion. So here, for example, if we have a good connection with somebody or bad connection with another person, then the interactions that proceed from that can't necessarily be love, genuine love, because they can change from morning till evening. And so that often is the case of a result of attachment rather than anything else. That harms more often than it helps. And so it's kind of like when we are interacting or engaging with somebody, and have a consistent attitude towards them, one of love and compassion, that isn't changed or isn't in any way impinged upon, even if they harm us, then we're on the track to genuine sustaining of love and compassion. And so we need to be able to make the unmistaken choice with regard to what is really love here, or what is just following on the heels of attachment.
다 그지 잡아도 닝제데 나라도가 삼로당당 토네 잡아 닝제 많이 받아 리베 슝루다 투바 리베 슝루다 투베 토네 잡아 닝제 리베 슝루다 투바스도 답변에 태과 첨베 리베 슝루데 대화 되게 동음에도 봐 임베 좀 생게 아니 잡아 깨로와 닝제 깨로와치 개구유 마치 보다 리베 슝루 디 토네 아니 다 저기 녀바 소토이치
So it's kind of,
소소 잘라 이네 개두고도 소소로 내가 기가 전에 대화도 동안 맞다 교환해 봤네 대화로 봐 소소로 내가 기가 전에 들 잡아든지 개투에게
And so that's when we are then cultivating love and compassion, we have to move beyond just what we think is love and compassion, but make sure that we are defining our love and compassion based on the reasoning that is there in the sacred texts. And so we need to gain conviction in the explanations that's given in the texts, so that when somebody harms us, that we can see that in the context of an unshaken love for that person, an unshaken compassion for that person. So it doesn't depend on the other's behaviors, but rather on our gaining much solid understanding of love and compassion by the conviction we have in the explanations as presented in the texts.
That's sumba long as a long chebe curmebasa. Sumba long chebe as a curmeba. Long chebe curmeba, sumba long chebe curmebanisa. Ranshinki as a Nebutata curmeba. Dudan as a chele catcher member. Because you do cheba member watch it. Tirwa.
Yeah.
And they shashana, they shash. They shash.
So we'll leave it there before going on.
Yeah, that got that to Kosura Namjuna Channel, doing the Lamatubia Umbo set up there, Lamatubia Umbo set up at the Rangichivola, Cheta Rangichivol, Takaja, because Yanju was sent to some of the Ruata, doing it to the Chaba to Jig to attack, Chaba to Jig to Mente, that because of the Mabang Pato, that you to Mutu quality, but net with yourself, and it Ruata, because of the quality net you do, and it cover Chaba to Jig to Mente, let cover the Majoina, Cocasa could do in it, because of the then quality net to your what that and it's created Digi Kadesheva in it, Taka Chaba to Jig to Mele. What the day in Sa and calling Yabachune, call it Tana Tabaj Matana Tamanto, Digi Kadishin be Seva in a Takajachin, Chaba to Jig to Mele Matematisha, what it is some of the Telematana and then to Digis Yonga, so what it is and Yabachune, and then they get John Sabe Lotti, and Rangichivoli Casota, Kajaja, Tamatamaja Samata. And then, because of the Casota, Chinaga choke condition, you didn't do but that do some your money, some you didn't do Yobaina, and then to go to your money. Then is that you didn't do but the two your money, or your money, something what in a salon. Casa del Samata, and then they never logic, and you make him watch it so some such. And that's the time there Sunday Goma, top of the top chicken, some such Samata, and then they get Dumbati, Lotti, and directing when you can watch it so that the Padas of Lama will target you over the kind of Kuso to do Mujasato, so that the Tablet got spare, never got show, similar to Sunday Goma, with Chesu Telecombustion.
And so then we again bring our mind to focus on the figure of the Onindra in front of us, the Buddha, and we start to develop or set up the lotus, sun and moon mandala seat on our own crowns, by reflecting on renunciation to begin with, and seeing how cyclic existence is in the nature of suffering. There's the suffering of change, but most particularly pervasive suffering. And we have to understand that until we get beyond pervasive suffering, we cannot get beyond, gain liberation from cyclic existence. And so we have to contemplate suffering in this kind of this breadth of suffering. And so it's here that there's no satisfaction here. We need to gain that sense of definite emergence from a cyclic existence, and this thought itself produces the lotus this mandala seed, and then to reflect on the lack of any inherent existence in anything external or internal, and to consider that they have no objective existence but are merely imputed by thought, produces the sun disk mandala seed. And through my own personal dedication to attaining enlightenment for the benefit of all living beings, produces that mind of enlightenment, which is represented by the moon disk mandala seed. And then we say, "Oh, glorious and precious root Guru, come take your lotus and moon seed placed here on my crown. Keep me safe in your kindness, bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind." And we do this. So we do this thrice. At the end of the first recitation, the figure starts to move from the space in front. At the end of the second, arrives at the seat, and at the end of the third, we feel that they have now been securely and steadfastly embedded on a crown seat, and they will be there until we attain the state of enlightenment.
찾아와는 쉬쉬고 탑에다 저서 이단고를 하는 데다가 니안타야 미스 뭐다 야라도 맨데다 저거 인터넷 다 다기네 실제 살로다 라인인데 다 년조가 살로다 님배마다 제대로 주소 써져 근데 지나가 추억한지 신발에 유전자 좀 뒤장요 말 삼네 뭐다데 커다 쳐가지고 살로다 아니 된데게 가자 간삼 로텐데질 아니 각점 다가라는 셈샤 어디서 아니 되네 뭐던데게 동반이 예배 다 로디 아니 님의 경고 약화지 주소 서자 되네 심지어 탐조 사제 고반 요원이 토와 맞아 탑으로 토바 지기 서자 아니 로지콤 아니 된데게 로디 다외 경고 약화지 주소 서되네 반대처럼 넘어는 다른 인가변은 그 구조도 정보를 잡고 소대전 안 답이 가서 패 니베 가서 쇼 스베가 땐저 산제 고마마도 어째 수수서 아니 되네 뼈마 답이다 카이데 좀 아니 인데스 남변이 내다네 내가 도저히 가서 생각봐 쳐가지고 가게 안 되네 가서 다 가자 또 배청아 다이도 뭐는 다이도 뭐는 마음은 소아스테네 아니 잡배양게 아니 가서 숭아 오마라바자나티디 오마라바자나티디 오마야다마 여들어서 오마야다마 해서 오마야다마 해서 샤만에 소아스테네 데데가 이거 수고 거되게 어떤데 지금 살았다.
And then with the figure of the Buddha firmly ensconced on our crown, we offer the mandala and the seven-limbed practices and praises. And then following that, we begin the process of establishing that similar seat at our heart center. So again, by contemplating renunciation and the sense of definitely emerging from cyclic existence produces the lotus disk mandala seat. And then while reflecting on the theory of emptiness, how we go through the meditation, arriving at the mere absence of the object of negation, and just trying to maintain a solid, fixed focus on just what that mere absence indicates. And from that arises the sun disk mandala seed, representing the wisdom, and then we get desire, a powerful determination rather, to attain the state of enlightenment, of seeing that there actually is no choice but to attain that state of enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings, producing the moon disk mandala representing the mind of enlightenment. And then again, we make the offering now that our seat is prepared. O glorious and precious root Guru, come take your lotus and moon seed placed here at my heart. Keep me safe in your kindness. Bestow on me the attainment of body, speech, and mind. This is recited thrice. At the end of the first, the figure on our crown begins the journey down through our crown chakra, down through the central channel. At the end of the second, arrives at the pre-prepared seat. And at the end of the third, we have the certainty that they will remain with us until we again attain that state of enlightenment. And then, having arrived at the seat, the petals of the lotus fold over, and the tips, as they meet, are sealed by a 5-pronged white vajra. And then that package is surrounded by different mantras. The mantra of the name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha going in a clockwise direction, the mantra of Manjushri in an anti-clockwise direction, and the mantra of dependent origination in a clockwise direction.
Rangi ningi wiso an lama tuwe uba neba di an kusung tule wese paadu mebara rangi chiwane kandi pala wese to rangi lugi nantante chamne an thoma mebara sa dikwa chida kiawa tu yang ta kanja che so chiwa maji malwa misama chiwa an suyo chama chizo ngaje nasa nuse lodala suwa mije chibo ki an ta kasa mije chibo ongi esa mije chibo ki lesa bia 레사바티 다지 체디엄 청아마 띵아마 토마 메바서 레 카드지 사와데 자치 다바 주소서 안 당연히 저거 쏟아가 도마다 거와 자주스만 라마다 거와 상하게 담세다 거와 오다 라소베 당연히 제다 전부다 로벨로 마구발라소바 또 상바 숨바 저거나 마구바소 군조소라 네벨 레기바 안 담배 쳐봐와 법에 균들로 고왔다와 심제다 네벨 레기발소바 다 디바 간제지 제와 요바이나 바 자치 다바 주소 섬자 어디를 고마시
So, and then from within the petals of the lotus seed, the Buddha residing there sends out countless rays of light permeating through our entire body, from the crown of our heads to the soles of our feet. And this powerful rays of white light purify all our negativities that we have accumulated since beginning this time. And centering on, for example, any infractions of the ethics of refraining from the 10 non-virtues, being the those associated with the physical actions of killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct, and those associated with verbal actions, being lying, harsh speech devices, speech and idle gossip, and those associated with mental actions, covetousness, malicious intent, and a wrong view. And so it deals with all of those negativities, completely eradicating them, whether we engaged in them in this life, in a previous life, or all previous lives, all through beginning this time. And then likewise, any infractions of our different vows, be it the individual liberation vehicle vows, or the Bodhisattva vows, or tantric vows, they are purified as well. All of the karma that we have accumulated through showing disrespect for our guru, all of those karmas of abandoning the Dharma or disparaging the Dharma, they are all completely purified now too.
안 조시 거의 많이 와. 자롱 틀리 경가 되지만 바 장치 다고 조수 선자 장치 다고 조수 선자 어디는 제 안 하도도 다까지 제 뉴도 산제 고마 타we 교연 치슈데 타메게 나시에서 타메게 나시 교연 탐제 자네 가나타데 다과는 저 맛이 차도 용수수 안 다기 소수의 신도 저 룬데 년랭게죠 아니 라마샤자생게 꾸데 현지지 괜찮네 아니 소수류데 라마샤자생 꾸르 교수 소수 아니 소수 신도 저 생데 년랭자 라마샤자생게 투데 현지지 괜찮 소수 셈데 라마샤자생게 투르 교수 랑게 르가 예순다 라마샤자생 구송도 뭐 예매 교수 섬사체 디 대와체 대외 동바체 아니 대외 동바 동배 대와체 대돈 예수미 시켜서 섬사체 아니 내데 다 탐제에 내게 교연 탐제 장네 아니 저 Lama Shaja Sangye Dawe Shidu Kyusu, so what did you
And so then we also take account of all the karmas that lead to any kind of illness or sickness or disease in the body physically, and any kind of mental issues that we have as well, problems and sicknesses, that they are completely purified, all completely purified. The four elements are rebalanced, etc. And especially that which is causing the main problem, to the speed with which we can attain the state of enlightenment, are being stuck on this ordinary view that is transformed into pure view from here on in. Then through the combination of my own more subtle wind acting as the substantial cause, together with the body of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own body is transformed into the enlightened body of the Buddha. And then through the combination of my own more subtle mind acting as the substantial cause, together with the mind of the Buddha acting as the cooperative conditions, my own mind is transformed into the enlightened mind of a Buddha. And now I see my body, speech, and mind as being inseparable from the body, speech, and mind of a Buddha. And likewise, the place in which I am is transformed and purified into a pure celestial abode.
아니
I'm sorry. Sorry. And likewise, I experience through this transformation a sense of bliss, which combines with emptiness, and I abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and emptiness.
ran lama shaja sa kuru juba tuga le wese tab semje ga tab wese to ala tene ane deda tanje ja lama shaja sa kusun to ngo yeme chu chu se ne deda tanje ja ne ga gyon tanje ja lama shaja sa ngi en tabe shi chu so so ane semje tanje lama shaja sa kusun to ngo yeme chu wa da de che do ra gi jawa kan chu wa deda tu no so so de wa yu den na ma do to ko pa ta sam de sa zo ko ma sha de sem to sha en di de wa de en de we dong ba de 아니 계속 선을 다른 거를 듣는 중에 게 요말에는 뭐가 이제 좀 계속 상상하고 들었죠.
And then from myself, seeing myself as a fully enlightened being, from my heart center, I send out countless rays of light equal in number to all the sentient beings in all the 6 realms of existence. As these light rays touch, they are transformed of all fault and completely spontaneously arise as enlightened beings. Likewise, their places are kind of purified of all fault, and they arise as pure realms. And so I realized that from this, then I kind of see that both the sentient beings who have led to that state of enlightenment, the virtue that has brought them to that state, and the agent myself of that virtue, are completely empty of any inherent or objective existence and merely imputed by thought. And I abide in that thought, try to focus on that for a short while, which brings forth a sense of bliss. Is combined with a voidness, and I abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness.
심지어 탐정에도 산재 고마 두고 심지어다 산재 고마 고고 세타 니마 되는 것도 야고 쉬우죠 가고 문에 다 야고 쉬우죠 가고 겁네 다 단다다 삼로 삼래 이나야다 단다 삼로 당원의 신체는 아니 문에 거라 대다 된듯이 두두에 줄을 주어서 된데 두두에게 아니 튕겨서 개견의 저와 용하쇼 소들죠.
So that of course this is wonderful. I have being able to lead all sentient beings to enlightenment today, and to establish them in that state of enlightenment. I rejoice in that. This is something wonderful. But I also realize that I'm operating here at the level of aspiration, and the imagination is, of course, is not so easy. And that, but I really make a dedication, very sincerely, that it will be made manifest as quickly as possible, and that all conducive conditions may be established and all obstacles be eradicated to being able to fulfill that.
어때? 하다 전에 이번에서 심지어 탐제도 산재 고바토발라 아니 지가서 돈이 이제 뭐 지금 남서 말려 탑요 말이야. 근데 이번에서 다 랑게 아니 지금 딱 간자 지금 내단 그대잖아. 상에게 내단 그대지 말이야. 다 지금 기부주나다 도부주나다 나와이나다 딱 간자 지 타마 시바이나다 근데 그냥 근데 쳐봐 이바이네. 되게 좋아이네. 그냥 근데 쳐봐 이네. 되게 그가 돈이 이제 뭐 지금 남규래 기베 아니 튕겨도 주
and also make the dedication very sincerely and powerfully. That you know that being on the path that must travel on to attain the goals. That therefore take into account whatever conditions arise, be they good, bad, or indifferent. Whether it's problems that are met, whether I'm sick, even if I am facing death. That I will recognize them all steadfastly as conducive conditions for engaging in practice, particularly for the cultivation of compassion and realization of emptiness. And I make this dedication sincerely. You are Avalokiteshvara, great treasure of compassion, not aimed at true existence, and Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, as well as Vajrapani, destroyer of hordes of demons without exception. Sankapa, crown jewel of the sages of the land of snows, Rosandarpa.
There we go.
Okay, thank you much, everyone.
Thank you again, Lon.
Thank you, Lon.
Thank you,
Don.
Don.
Very much.
Bye.
Have a good week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Well.
Everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Lee.
Take care.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Lee, that one?
Yeah.